What is the future, if any, for travel agencies? Hey there, welcome back to Plain English, the best podcast for learning English, your recipe for success. I'm Jeff, JR is the producer, and this is episode 196. That means you can find all the episode resources at plainenglish.com/196. Among those resources are a video lesson on how to use even if in a sentence, even if, and of course our flashcards. What's our theme today? They are business words, but they're also trust words. Business and trust often go together. And so we have 5 of those words in the Quizlet flashcard set this Monday morning for you at plainenglish.com/196. Coming up today, a continuation of Thursday's topic. Is there a future for traditional travel agencies? Thomas Cook went out of business suddenly. But package vacations are not dead yet. I've got a great phrasal verb for you too, to come around, and we have a quote about bankruptcy, possibly the most famous quote about bankruptcy in the whole English language. It's a good one. Real quick before we dive in, we do a phrasal verb or an expression in every episode, but I also pick out one more word or phrase from the episode text that is not the selected phrase for discussion. Call it the runner-up, the second best one in the episode. And I write up a little explanation of that word, and I email it out to listeners in our email community. So that's every Monday and Thursday morning, a new word or expression that appears in plain English. And you know what? I never run out. I never look at an episode and think, there's no interesting words here. There's nothing to talk about. It never happens. There's always a word I want to highlight and share with our listeners. So if you want to get those, make sure to sign up for our email list by visiting plainenglish.com/mail, M-A-I-L. We're all familiar with the online discount travel agencies like Expedia, Orbitz, Hotels.com, Travelocity. There's even one called Cheap-O-Air, and it's not a joke. These discount agencies have eclipsed more traditional travel agencies in the last 10 or 15 years. You'll remember that on Thursday, we talked about package tour operator Thomas Cook and its sudden demise. The question we'll explore today is there a future for traditional travel agencies, or are they a thing of the past now that we have cheap online booking tools? Let's start with the value proposition of a travel agent. Here's what they provide. We talked about this a little bit on Thursday. You go into a shop, you browse a few pre-planned vacations, choose one, and buy it. Thomas Cook handles the itinerary, travel, logistics, restaurants, all that stuff. You might not know anything about the place you're going, but you'll have a quality vacation based on the reputation of the travel agent. That value proposition was much greater in the days before the internet, when the world was a lot less globalized than it is today. To understand better, I want you to picture trying to book a vacation in the days before the internet. And I don't mean somewhere easy. Picture a country where you don't speak the language. I'm going to picture Japan. You pick somewhere else. What would you have to do? Before the internet, remember. You'd have to buy a book or go to the library to research the city. You'd read in that book a few pages on hotels, and the hotels are not global brands like Hilton or Marriott. They don't have photos. They don't have user reviews. You have a name, a blurb, and a phone number. That's it. So you'll call international, somehow try to communicate your name and dates with the other person, hang up nervously, hoping it worked. Now, when you get there, there's no Uber. You have to find a taxi or expensive shuttle to your hotel. You might get ripped off, who knows? When you pay for things, you can't pay with a credit card. Your credit cards don't work internationally, even if the shops accept plastic. So you're carrying traveler's checks, remember those? Which you have to change into cash. Good luck booking a day trip out of town. There's no way to know, aside from the guidebook, what restaurants are good. Maybe you want to book a walking tour or a bike tour around the city, but the tour guides might not speak your language. It sounds exhausting, right? And now imagine you have 2 kids with you. So places like Thomas Cook made international travel possible for so many people who couldn't or didn't want to go to all that effort. They offered a consistent level of quality throughout your vacation. You might not know anything about the local country hotels or tours or food, but you knew it would be a good vacation because Thomas Cook arranged it all. You can imagine how an international vacation could turn into a fiasco without good organization or a lot of advance preparation. So that's what they offered. And they made money by booking hotel rooms, tours, airline seats, spots on cruise ships, whatever. They bought those in bulk. They knew that they'd have a steady stream of travelers, so they got the best prices by buying in bulk. Win-win, as we say. It's not like that any longer. It's tempting to say that the internet killed that business model. We now have global airline alliances that fly to every part of the world. Your local airline can get you just about anywhere. We have global hotel companies, so you can pick a hotel in most major cities and know approximately what you're getting in terms of quality. You can research things online. Hotels post photos. Travelers post reviews. Tourism is big around the world. People speak English just like all of you. So life is a little easier once you arrive at your destination. Transportation in a country is safer with Uber and smartphone apps, and so on. Who needs a travel agent anymore? Not so fast. This boggles the mind, but in the United States, half of all travel is not booked online. In the United States, who are these people not booking their travel online? They exist somewhere. And I'll tell you what else. The value of a travel agent still exists, just not for a traditional vacation. In fact, in Britain, the number of people booking travel as a package rather than separately a la carte actually rose between 2000 and 2018. Let's say you want to go on a safari in Africa or go camping in the jungle in Costa Rica or do a bike tour in the countryside of Portugal or hike from Cusco to Machu Picchu. These are not vacations you can arrange with a few clicks of the mouse. You don't want to get on the back of your Jeep in Botswana and start having doubts about your safety. A tour operator with a good reputation can still help you go places you couldn't otherwise go with peace of mind. 50 years ago, that place might have been Paris. Today, Paris is easy, so tour operators help you do other things. The other trend in modern tour operators is smaller groups, more focused activities, and more authentic experiences. Instead of taking a few hundred people to the Eiffel Tower every week, these new companies serve up more specialized vacations to smaller groups. For example, they can take you to Bangkok and smaller villages nearby that you might otherwise not know about. Or they take you on a camel trek in Egypt or a wine tour in Chile and Argentina. I've started to come around to the idea of potentially booking a tour with a travel agent, but it would have to be with one of these smaller boutique agencies that plans something that realistically I otherwise would not be able to do. Time to say hello to a few people. First, Juarez from Brazil is a physiotherapist and has discovered a love of learning languages. He's been studying English for 6 months, and, judging by his email, he has already made a lot of progress. I'd also like to say hi to Leanne from Brazil. She wrote to say that she really liked the episode about movie theater subscriptions, number 192. Great to have you both with us, Juarez and Leanne. The phrasal verb we have for you today is to come around. This is an interesting one. This means to gradually change your mood or opinion. You often say you come around to something that you now agree with. Here's how you heard it just a moment ago. For years, I had never considered booking a vacation as part of a package. The idea of packing onto a coach bus with 50 other tourists and driving around to the biggest tourist attractions in a city is just not my idea of fun. But I'm coming around to the idea of group tours because some new tour operators have more interesting destinations, smaller groups, and more authentic experiences. Before, I would never consider a group tour. I'm still not totally convinced, but I'm coming around to the idea. I'm gradually starting to change my mindset or my opinion. I told you on Thursday about my moving truck debacle in the alleyway behind my house. I was moving from New York to Chicago, and here's what happened with that. I lived here in Chicago for 9 years. Then I moved to New York for a little while. And after a few years in New York, I started to get the feeling that although I liked it there, I didn't want to be there long term. It wasn't easy to find the right life balance there with all of the costs. But I didn't know where exactly I wanted to live, if not in the New York area. Now, eventually, I came around to the idea of moving back to Chicago. At first, I thought I should either stay in New York or try something new. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Chicago is where I wanted to live. I came around to the idea of just moving back. And that's what I did, and I've been very happy with that choice. At first, when I moved back, I wanted to rent an apartment here. I didn't know how long I'd be living here, and I wanted to save some more money. New York is not exactly friendly on the wallet, so I wanted to build up my savings, and I thought renting an apartment would be a good idea. When I started looking, however, I found that rental apartments were either luxurious and extremely expensive, like in downtown, or just not the quality I was looking for. A lot of good buildings became condominiums here. A condominium is where individuals own the apartments, so they're not often for rent. So I just wasn't happy with the rental apartments I saw. I didn't want to buy an apartment, buy a condominium, as we say, but after taking some tours and looking at neighborhoods and prices, I eventually came around to the idea of buying a condominium, and that's what I did. Not in downtown. To be honest, I'm at the end of one of the train lines here, so I have a bit of a commute, but I came around to the idea of owning a place here, and it has worked out well. It's common to say it took me a while to come around. You would say that if you didn't like an idea for a long time, but eventually you liked it. Imagine you have a friend that's in a new relationship and he wants to move in with his girlfriend, but the girlfriend has a cat and your friend isn't a cat lover. It might take your friend a while to come around to the idea of living with a cat. You could say someone still hasn't come around to an idea if that person still doesn't agree. With the advent of Plain English Plus, JR, our trusty producer, has a lot more responsibility. He now has double the audio to edit. He edits videos twice a week, sometimes more than that. He does the flashcards. He does a lot more than he did before. And, mind you, he also does the Spanish translations for our online transcripts. I keep telling him, JR, why don't we get some help with the Spanish translations? We have translators for all the other languages. Let's get someone to help with the Spanish translations since you have all these other new things to do. Guess what? He still hasn't come around to that idea. He still likes to do the Spanish translations himself. He's a hard worker, that JR. And who knows, you might even hear his voice again on an upcoming episode. Maybe if we have a round number episode in the future. Who knows? Time for the quote of the week. This is a famous quote, although it's often misquoted. It's a dialogue from a famous book. The book is The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. It came out in 1926. The subject is bankruptcy. Here's the dialogue. How did you go bankrupt? Bill asked. 2 ways, Mike said. Gradually and then suddenly. That's a very frequently quoted line, frequently misquoted. Gradually and then suddenly is how the character described his bankruptcy. And that is how it happened with Thomas Cook, too. Gradually and then suddenly. The business gradually fell behind its competitors, gradually accumulated a mountain of debt, gradually became unsustainable. And then, all at once, it collapsed. They were hanging on for a while, but suddenly the firm was no longer, leaving everyone stranded. Gradually and then suddenly. It sounds like a contradiction, but that's exactly how the bankruptcy happened with Thomas Cook, and that's what happened with the character in The Sun Also Rises. And with that, we will wrap up today's episode. Thanks for indulging me a second episode on this topic. You heard me mention about the translations. If you're not sure what I was talking about, it's a feature of Plain English Plus, our new membership. Here's how it works. You log on to our website, plainenglish.com/196. Scroll down, and you'll see the transcript of the program, a word-for-word transcript of everything I say. If you're there, you'll also see tabs for 7. Can you believe that? 7 other languages: Portuguese, Spanish, Japanese, German, now we have German, French, Chinese, and Italian. If you click on one of those tabs, you get a magical new version of the transcript. In this magical version, there are about 100 words or phrases highlighted in red. If you hover your mouse over these words, like magic, the translation into your language appears right on your screen. It works on mobile devices too. Just tap on the word. And what that means is you play the episode on the webpage, you read along on the transcript, and when you get to a word you don't know, you don't have to stop the audio and look it up. And you never have to be confused. You never have to look these words up because the translation is right there. If you'd like a demonstration of this magic, you can see a sample episode of all this at plainenglish.com/sample. sample, and you can see a real-life demonstration free on your screen. And if you'd like access to the translations in the future, just visit plainenglish.com/plus and become a Plus member.